Welcome to the first ever Hangout on the Union Budget.
Kala, a question from you. I know you waited a long time.
Yes. Good evening, Mr. Chidambaram. Although I know that your budget has netted the big fish and you have set it for the pro-poor and the anti-rich, I'm voicing the concern of the urban, I repeat, the urban middle-class Indian who feels squeezed from many directions, be it housing, eating out, food prices, rising standards of living, and now even the mobile phone. My concern is with the prices, the rising prices of essential commodities going up in alarming disproportion to the income of a salaried household. How does a salaried person combat this to maintain his standard of living?
Well, I'm glad you asked the question. I sympathize with you. I can understand the pressures on the urban middle class. It has a certain standard of living. To maintain that standard, it costs more. I'm not denying that.
Mobile phone, you've increased?
Now I'm coming to mobile phone.
Yeah.
Now, on mobile phones, we've imposed a small duty. 70% of mobile phones are priced at 2,000 rupees and below. We have not increased the duty there. We've increased the duty on high-priced mobile phones.
Even the entry-level mobile phone, from the basic feature to entry-level.
But please remember, if you buy a mobile phone, say, for 6,000 rupees, you should be prepared to pay a small tax of 300 rupees. What do you tax these people? I mean, you can't increase income tax rates. You don't want to impose a wealth tax. We don't have an inheritance tax. Some tax revenues have to be raised for the government. There are, outside the urban middle class that you talked about, there are millions of people who are extremely poor. They need healthcare, they need schools, they need roads, they need drinking water, they need sanitation. We have to find the money to do all that. Therefore, if you buy a 6,000 rupee phone, is it unfair to ask you to pay a tax of 300 rupees? If you eat out and you are willing to pay, let's say, 1,000 rupees for a dish, any one item that you order, there are dishes today which cost 1,250, 1,500, and in an air-conditioned restaurant, is it unfair to ask you to pay service tax? There is a service being rendered to you. Therefore, I think while the urban middle class has reason to complain, and I quite share your angst and your anger, it's those who have incomes and those who have the money who have to pay a little tax. I can't tax the poor.
What about what about the loan cap of 25 lakhs, which does not look attractive to the metros? The housing loan cap.
You see, on 25 lakhs, actually the bulk of the units that are built in this country are below 25 lakhs. Something like 70%, 75% are below 25 lakhs. They are not 25 lakhs in the metropolitan cities. That's nothing to do with the material that goes in the building. That's got to do with the location. That's got to do with the land. Therefore, what we are trying to do is to promote housing in tier 2, tier 3 cities. That's where there's a huge housing shortage. That's where people have to add to the housing stock. People have to be encouraged to own their own homes. And on a 25 lakh loan, at 10% interest, he has to pay 2.5 lakhs. He can deduct today 1.5 lakhs. We have allowed him to deduct the other 1 lakh too. And the vast majority of loans are 25 lakhs and below. I think you are speaking for a very small segment of the urban middle class, which is perhaps upper middle class.
Yes.
I have to keep in mind the vast middle class, the real middle class, the lower middle class, and the poor.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. PM.
Well, you call him PM?
Oh, Mr. Evans.
Well, looking into the future, perhaps.
Yes, yes.
Let's go across to California. We got Amit
I just want to answer Mrs. Kudwa.
Yes.
You see, while costs are rising for you, I can feel it in my own home. Costs are rising. Incomes are also rising in the metropolitan cities that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Incomes are also rising. In the corporate sector, reports show that incomes will rise between 10 to 15% this year.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, it's not as though only costs are rising and incomes are not rising. But look at the farmer. Incomes are not rising at the same rate as incomes are rising in among the urban middle class.
Okay.
And what about the people who do not have a regular job? The people who are employed in casual, completely casual and ephemeral work. I mean, no assurance of a work tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
For them, incomes don't rise at all. So one has to balance all these things.
Right.
We are not a country with only the middle class. We are a country with a very large section of the people who are poor.
Right.
And when I tax the rich, a very small number of them, 42,800, that number was used deliberately to shock you. I want all of you to be shocked by the number that there are only 42,800 people in this country who admit to a tax of 1 crore rupees.
Yes.
I'm sure each one of you, Anand may know more, but each one of you will know at least 100 people who should be admitting to an income of 1 crore.
True.
And we put a small surcharge. Thank God they have not complained. I don't know, they are maybe cursing me silently, but they've not complained publicly. We have to tax someone to raise the revenues to meet our other objectives.